Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Anthony Sinclair and I'm joined with Andrew Cowper, who has won a Royal Television Society Award and has also studied BA Broadcast Journalism at Nottingham Trent University. So nice to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'm just going to jump into my first question. And in your third year, you was tasked with producing a 10-minute documentary. What mindset were you in at the start?
Well, at the start, you kind of think to yourself, blimey, a documentary. I mean, the word itself, documentary, you think, wow, it's going to be a huge task. I mean, if you watch on TV some of the documentaries that are produced, they are good quality. So being a student and being tasked with such a huge challenge, you are scared. You are scared.
I suppose you are. Because I suppose they've got that much faith in you, haven't they? To say, this is what you can do, go off, produce something of your own material and then put it out there.
Yeah, I mean, the tutors are absolutely fantastic. And when you first start off in your first year and, you have all the training with Adobe Premiere and Adobe Audition, you think to yourself, oh, this is all so much to take on. But when you actually start filming and putting together the documentary, all that training that you've had previously starts to take effect, which helps you greatly and it overcomes those fears that you have perhaps at the start of putting your documentary together.
Because I suppose what many people don't realise is the tasks that you're set in the first year, you're not just doing it for the sake of doing it, it is leading up to this bigger thing.
Oh yeah, of course, it helps a lot, immensely, and it doesn't just help you in terms of on your course as well. These are skills that you can use outside of the course. I know I've had friends who've done this course previously and they've gone on to, filming for weddings, for instance, so just doing it as a part-time job. And of course, the skills that you've acquired through training with the engineers on Adobe and Premiere, you can use that outside of the course as well.
Yeah, definitely. And how many ideas did you have floating around before deciding to focus on albinism?
I had a number of ideas. I used there's so many topics and subjects out there to focus on, but I suppose for me, I've always been interested in something out of the ordinary, outside of the box. And I kind of drew inspiration from David Attenborough, for instance, and Vice as well. I love what Vice do, the documentaries that they do. These are stories that perhaps none of us would hear about or be exposed to. So, for example, in my case, mine was albinism. I had the other idea I had in my head was Lewy body dementia. There's been a lot that's been done about dementia, but this type of dementia is it's a mix of Parkinson's and dementia in one. So that was a really a good topic to do. However, again, I looked at what's been done about it, and there has been a fair bit of work done on it. Now, for me, because I was born in Africa, I was born in Kenya, in fact, so I wanted to. I was already aware of what happens to albinos in terms of the superstition that surrounds it and the belief they have on albinos as a whole. But I didn't know it was as serious as it was until I started doing the research, looking into the treatment of albinos in Africa.
I mean, when you did look into the research and you dug a bit deeper, it was then you discovered that actually albinos were being kidnapped and actually killed. What was it for? Was it for medicine?
Yeah, well, witch doctors have this belief, and it's not just witch doctors as well. A lot of people, a lot of communities in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa, have this belief that albino bones bring you wealth, bring you good luck. So, for instance, there was actually a report a few weeks ago that BBC put out, and it stated that a lot of the killings are happening around the mining towns and fishing towns. So, Lake Victoria, for instance, fishermen would weave albino hair into their fishing nets, hoping and thinking that they'll catch more fish. But really, that's not the issue. It's overfishing and pollution.
Yeah, I suppose it's an interesting subject as well, because with many investigations into, say, minorities or people who look different or strange even, usually the subject is on how they're feared and how these communities are hated. But I suppose this is an obsession more in a way, isn't it?
It's a lot of it's to do with superstition, and there's also a big element of education. As I said, fishermen there with albino hair into their fishing nets, but if they actually had education on why there's no fish, and also had education on albinos don't bring you, good faith and good luck. That these are, these are humans. They're not magical people. But then at the same time, the parents have the complete opposite belief to what witch doctors do. So you'd have a black couple would give birth to a white baby, and they're shocked. Even midwives are shocked. So in my documentary, I had Agnes. She's 13. When she was born, she had a twin sister who was an albino as well. Now, when she was born, her father, at the birth, said, "What the hell has happened here? This has never happened in my family. I've got four siblings who are black, and one's been born white." So immediately they start. The husband would think, "Hang on, my wife's cheated on me," but really she hasn't. There's not a white person in the village, so they turn to the belief that this is the devil child. What have I given birth to? Subsequently, they're shunned from the community, and quite often, in fact, most of the time, the parents will run away or they'll kill the baby there and then.
And it's quite tragic case stories, isn't it, for something that's simply just genetic
with
the child, and they just don't understand that.
Yeah, there's just a big element on education, I think, as well.
So, yeah, definitely. So I'm guessing now that was basically the driving force as to why you wanted to do the documentary, because I was just wondering if albinism, if I'm saying that right,
yeah, that's right,
is personal to you, if there's any cases in your family.
No, there isn't. There are no albinos in my family, but for me, I guess for me it was personal in the way that I was born in Kenya, and Africa, not just Kenya but Africa as a whole is a huge continent, and there's so much going on that we're absolutely unaware of. So, for example, the albino story, I know there is another issue that's been going on in Nigeria where children are being they're taking advantage of children, sending them out to go and beg when children should actually be in school. There's so many issues going on, and I feel Africa is that sort of place that really needs to be tapped into, because there's some big stories out there.
Yeah, it's quite shocking to think that Africa is so, as you say, underrepresented when it's such a big continent. It's such a big landmass on Earth.
It is. And that's a shame, really, I think. But I think over the years and with work that I've done, and I'm sure loads of other people are doing, that Africa will become more represented. So much so. I mean, the campaigning that's been going towards the treatment of albinos is working, because now Tanzania, which is where it's rife at the moment, becoming a witch doctor or practicing witchcraft wasn't illegal. So that's where the demand came from for the albino bones. But now Tanzania have outlawed witchcraft, which is a step in the right direction. However, more can still be done to try and better the lives of albinos in Africa.
Definitely. And I suppose it's about, again, broadening the education in Africa.
Yes.
To just make witch doctors seem, like they're doing wrong, and it's about educating the public.
Yes.
And so how ambitious was it to travel to Africa to do all the filming?
Well, as you can imagine, the planning had to be absolutely meticulous. I started planning 6 months before I started planning 6 months before I even booked my plane ticket to travel to Kenya. So the first stage, of course, was looking at who I could interview to take part in the documentary. I was lucky enough to have Africa's first albino MP, who's seen as the face of albinism in the whole of Africa. I was also lucky to have Justice Mumbi Gugi, who's a High Court judge, the first albino High Court judge on human rights. So her role as a judge was perfect in terms of what I was looking at, which is abuse and the killings. These killings amount to human rights abuses. So of course it was absolutely perfect to have her on board being a human rights High Court judge. I was also very fortunate to have brilliant access through a charity called KAKSU, which is a Kenyan albino child support program, and they rescue albino children from torn families and even from kidnappers as well. I know there was an issue. There was a story once where there was a young chap, an albino, who was promised a job, went along for the job interview thinking it was a legitimate job interview. However, it was a setup. And when he arrived there for the interview, there were two kidnappers. They locked him up in a room. And over the course of 2 days, they were trying to arrange the sale of his body. They were going to chop his body up into bits and sell it for, I think it was around $70,000.
That's absolutely terrifying to think that.
Exactly. But luckily, this charity saved him. And they have a school where the children board at the school for security reasons, of course. And they gave me fantastic access. As I said, I was filming at the school. I spent a week and a half at the school filming the children, and it was really, really rewarding. And I became good friends with the kids as well.
As you said, you spoke to the High Court judge as well, who's also an albino.
Yeah.
Are people like her even in danger over there?
Not so much. Not so much her. I don't. She's. It's because the albinos. You do get albinos walking around in Kenya, but the problem seems to be in the rural parts of Kenya. You have a village elder. Everyone knows everyone. As soon as someone has a child, they know about it. But what often happens is if you have an albino child, they'll lock the child up. In my documentary, I have a chap called Hillary. He's with a red jumper. He was locked up for 12 years in a room. So it was locked up for that long that he couldn't walk. He did not know how to use a knife and fork. He couldn't talk. He had no social skills, nothing, because he was locked up for 12 years.
I'm sure that has huge psychological and physical effects on the body as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. He wasn't, because his parents were ashamed to show the community that they'd given birth. They have this albino child. They didn't want to show him, but luckily, because the charity found out about it and rescued this child, so that they're doing fantastic work. And as I said, I was very fortunate to have the access to film the children.
You show no signs of slowing down and making these documentaries, and with this one being another 10-minute one, do you hope in the future that they might get longer and longer and you can fit more?
Yeah, I mean, as a career, this is something that I'd like to get involved in. As a career, I love making documentaries, and the pressure of it as well. As you can imagine, you have so much pressure. And you have this deadline, and you've got to plan and plan and plan. Sometimes you get let down. That's going to happen, but determination is key. And I enjoy putting content together and putting documentaries together. Of course, you get to travel, which is great. I love meeting new people, and it's an interesting career.